You know that feeling when someone calls your interests weird or too intense? When they roll their eyes because you care deeply about understanding why people do what they do, or because you can't handle another conversation about the weather? If you're nodding along right now, there's a good chance you might be an INFJ, and what everyone else calls obsessions are actually the hidden engine of your genius. These 8 psychological obsessions aren't character flaws. They're the reason your mind works differently, and why that difference is actually superior. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your brain is wired for insight that others miss. Before we start, please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe so you won't miss any of our weekly deep dives into the world of personality types. And if you are looking to achieve a deeper understanding of yourself and your personality type, click the link in the comments to take our favorite free personality test. Obsession 1. Complex Character Analysis. INFJs don't just notice people. They conduct complete psychological autopsies on everyone they meet. You see through surface behavior as if it were transparent. While others accept what people say at face value, you're automatically running diagnostic scans on their micro-expressions, body language, and emotional subtext. This isn't nosiness. It's your introverted intuition, extroverted feeling functions working together like a sophisticated radar system. Your intuition picks up patterns in behavior, while your feeling function maps the emotional landscape underneath. You notice when someone's smile doesn't reach their eyes, when their voice changes pitch when they mention certain topics, and when their posture shifts during specific conversations. What makes this obsession genius is your prophetic accuracy about people. You predict relationship breakups months in advance. You sense when someone's about to quit their job or make a significant life change. You read the emotional weather patterns that others miss entirely. This character analysis obsession becomes your strategic advantage. You know which people to trust, which ones to avoid, and how to communicate with each person in their emotional language. While others stumble through social interactions blindly, you navigate with psychological GPS. Obsession 2. Meaningful conversations. Only. Small talk isn't just boring for INFJs. It's psychological torture. Your mind craves depth the way your body craves oxygen. Surface-level interactions feel like being asked to think with half your brain turned off. You conserve your social energy by rejecting conversations that don't feed your soul. When someone asks how your weekend was, you want to talk about the existential crisis you had while reading philosophy, or the breakthrough you made about childhood trauma. When they share weekend plans, you want to know what drives their choices, what they're avoiding, and what they hope to become. This obsession with meaningful dialogue serves multiple functions. It satisfies your intellectual hunger, fosters genuine intimacy, and provides data for your constantly evolving models of human consciousness. Each deep conversation becomes participatory research into what makes people tick. The frustration comes from how rare these conversations are. Most people operate on autopilot, choosing surface efficiency over depth. But when you find someone who shares your preference for substance, something magical happens. Two consciousnesses recognize each other across the usual human distance, and you feel truly understood. Your insistence on meaningful conversation isn't antisocial. It's a valuable approach. It's your natural orientation toward authentic connection and philosophical exploration. Obsession 3. Hidden Patterns and Symbolism. Your mind operates like a pattern recognition supercomputer, constantly processing reality for deeper meaning. You see connections across scales, noticing how individual psychological patterns mirror relationship dynamics, which in turn reflect cultural patterns that echo historical cycles. You recognize fractals of meaning embedded throughout existence. This manifests as a fascination with symbolic systems, such as tarot, astrology, mythology, and archetypal psychology. You're drawn to these not as literal prediction tools, but as sophisticated frameworks for understanding human consciousness. The tarot card interests you because it crystallizes psychological configurations with remarkable precision. You notice how myths from different cultures encode identical psychological truths, how ancient symbols appear in modern dreams, how personal relationship patterns repeat generational trauma cycles. You see the same archetypal stories playing out across history, literature, and individual lives. This pattern obsession gives you an almost supernatural ability to predict trends and future outcomes. You sense cultural shifts before they become apparent. You recognize when systems are breaking down, when new paradigms are emerging, and when collective consciousness is evolving. The gift carries risks, though. You can fall into seeing patterns everywhere, reading significance into coincidences, and constructing elaborate symbolic narratives from random data. Learning discernment about which patterns reflect genuine structure versus projection requires maturity and intellectual humility. Obsession 4. Personal development obsession. Few personality types engage in self-improvement with the same relentless intensity. This isn't just casual interest in self-help. You operate from a fundamental belief that human beings are infinitely malleable, that trauma can be healed, that consciousness can evolve, and that genuine transformation is possible. You collect growth frameworks like museum pieces, attend therapy with religious devotion, read psychology books not to accumulate knowledge, but to identify which aspects of your psychological architecture need renovation. You engage in a systematic self-examination that would exhaust most people. What drives this compulsion operates on multiple levels. Partially, it's perfectionism, the belief that your current version is insufficient. Partially, it reflects your deep empathy, recognizing that your healing creates ripples outward, and that personal growth represents service to others. You're less interested in external success markers and more concerned with internal coherence, aligning actions with values, healing trauma, and becoming increasingly authentic versions of yourself. Each breakthrough feels like uncovering more of who you truly are beneath conditioning and wounds. The paradox is that your commitment to growth sometimes creates impossibly high standards. You might reject situations lacking sufficient development potential, abandon relationships that feel stagnant, or experience chronic dissatisfaction because actual progress never matches your idealized transformation vision. Obsession 5. Social justice and systemic change. Your moral framework operates differently from most personality types. You don't just care about individual kindness or personal virtue. You possess systemic empathy, an ability to perceive how structural inequities create cascading suffering, how power asymmetries generate specific categories of harm. This generates distinctive interest in social justice, activism, and systematic attempts to create more equitable systems. For you, this isn't a level concern. It's foundational to how you construct meaning and purpose. You're drawn toward work that reduces suffering, challenges injustice, and creates systemic transformation. What distinguishes your approach is the combination of emotional engagement with strategic thinking. You don't simply feel outrage about injustice. You simultaneously analyze root causes, contributing factors, potential solutions, and implementation pathways. Emotion fuels commitment, while analysis shapes approach. This creates vulnerabilities because you perceive injustice with unusual clarity. Because you empathetically absorb others' suffering and understand how deeply embedded systemic problems are, you risk becoming overwhelmed by the magnitude of suffering and your limited capacity to alleviate it. Your perfectionism can manifest as rigidity in social justice contexts. You might establish impossibly high ethical standards, become unforgiving of others' incomplete consciousness, or struggle to accept that most humans exist in moral gray zones rather than clear ethical positions. Obsession 6. Purpose-driven work. For most personality types, work serves as a means to an end, generating income, social status, or security. For you, work operates on a more fundamental level. It's intertwined with identity, purpose, and existential meaning. The question, "What do you do?" feels inseparable from "Who are you?" and "Why does your existence matter?" This often generates frustrating patterns where you repeatedly cycle through professional explorations, searching for work that feels sufficiently meaningful, aligned with your values, and capable of leveraging your particular gifts in service of something larger than yourself. You'll abandon positions that generate adequate income but leave you feeling spiritually empty. You experience chronic dissatisfaction if work lacks a connection to a genuine purpose. This represents far more than career restlessness. It reflects your fundamental belief that work either constitutes an expression of your essential self or becomes a slow psychological death, a daily denial of what you authentically value. What compounds this pattern is your tendency to set impossible standards for what constitutes sufficiently meaningful work. You might reject positions offering genuine impact if they also involve administrative tasks, organizational politics, or compromise. You search for roles that are simultaneously deeply purposeful, intellectually stimulating, emotionally resonant, and somehow free from mundane friction. Obsession 7. Creative expression. While not all INFJs identify as artists, many experience a genuine compulsion toward creative expression, including writing, visual art, music, poetry, photography, or other media that allow them to externalize their rich internal landscape. This isn't a hobby-level interest, but rather something closer to a psychological necessity. Creative expression serves multiple functions simultaneously. It becomes a method of processing emotional complexity that resists verbal articulation. It provides language for experiences defying conventional description. It transforms private consciousness into a potentially shareable form, creating a connection with others who might recognize themselves in your work. What distinguishes your creative expression is the consistent presence of a deeper purpose. You don't typically create purely for aesthetic pleasure or entertainment. Instead, your work normally conveys a message, explores psychological or philosophical dimensions, critiques injustice, examines relational complexity, or seeks to illuminate aspects of human experience that you feel compelled to communicate. The content typically reflects your other interests, such as psychology, social justice, existential questions, character complexity, spiritual exploration, or relational authenticity. Your art becomes a vehicle for processing and communicating what you've learned through sustained engagement with these domains. Many INFJs experience creative work as emotionally cathartic and simultaneously anxiety-producing. Externalizing your inner world, making visible what was previously private, generates both relief and vulnerability. You expose the internal landscape to potential judgment, criticism, or misunderstanding. Obsession 8. Understanding the dark side. Your fascination with psychology's shadow elements operates as a strategic defense mechanism. You study manipulation tactics, trauma responses, and human evil, not from morbid curiosity, but from a genuine need to understand causal chains of circumstances and choices that lead people toward harm. You become a psychological archaeologist of human nature, excavating the buried motivations behind destructive behavior. You analyze criminal psychology case studies, abusive relationship patterns, cult manipulation techniques, and narcissistic strategies, because understanding darkness becomes protection for your sensitivity. This obsession serves your survival instincts. As someone who naturally trusts and empathizes, you need sophisticated knowledge about how predatory individuals operate. You study the shadow not to become it, but to recognize it when it appears in your life. You're running diagnostic procedures on human behavior, searching for patterns that illuminate the complexity beneath the surface. You believe that if you can sufficiently understand how psychological manipulation operates, you become better equipped to protect yourself and guide others away from harm. These obsessions aren't weird quirks to overcome. They're a predictable output of superior psychological architecture designed for insight, pattern recognition, and healing. You feel different because you are different, and that difference is exactly what the world needs. Check out this video where we explore the INFJ superpowers and subscribe for more. If you want to continue the journey to understanding yourself or an INFJ in your life, click either of the following videos where we continue to unlock the secrets of the INFJ personality type.